Okay, Paul Newman is an exclusive club. He's one of 6 people that have been nominated playing the same actor in 2 different films. The first one was Bing Crosby playing Father O'Malley in Going My Way, and the sequel, The Bells of St. Mary. Peter O'Toole is the next one. He played King Henry II in Becket in The Lion in the Winter. Al Pacino was next. He, of course, he did Michael Corleone in Godfather 1 and 2. Paul Newman would be the next one, playing Fast Eddie Felson in Hustler and The Color of Money. After him, we had the first female actress, the only female actress to be nominated playing the same character in 2 different films. We have Cate Blanchett for Elizabeth I and Elizabeth the Golden Age. And lastly is a very surprise one, is Sylvester Stallone being nominated playing Rocky in Rocky and Creed. So it's a very exclusive club Paul Newman is a member of. He used to hold the record for the longest duration, but Sylvester Stallone took that bit of the longest duration of playing the same character in 2 different films.
And I think that list gets even smaller if the person won for the second outing. That's, I think, the incredibly rare thing. We think a lot about those kinds of actors that like elevated to a different level. I always go back to like a Johnny Depp getting nominated for Pirates of the Caribbean 1 and then not again for any of the other films, even though he's essentially playing the same character. The Academy doesn't want to give up one of its slots to something we've seen before. So I think it really surprises, especially when you have a large space, because you can return to a film like sequel and just play yourself again because you've really disconnected from the character, or you can return and really bring something this time around. Naturally, we're closing off our Pool Hall Junkies series with The Color of Money, sequel to The Hustler. And, like I said, there's not a ton of great pool hall movies. So getting a chance to visit this one is really exciting. We're
eventually going to get to a Marty Scorsese film.
I know, I'm surprised it took this long. We did Departed. We did Departed.
Oh.
We did Departed. It did not take that long. Yeah. It did take a little bit longer to come back to it again, though.
Okay. I'm Nick from the St. Paul Filmcast.
And I'm Kyle from GoFilmReviews.com.
Let's break them. I'm Nick from the St. Paul Filmcast.
And I'm Kyle from GoFilmReviews.com.
Of course, if they're going to make a sequel about Fast Eddie Felson's career, Marty Scorsese was going to do it, especially since he loved The Hustler. We talked about it on the movie The Hustler, and using Jake LaMotta was in the Hustler film, and then he did Raging Bull. This is based on Walter Trevor's sequel to his novel, The Hustler. He did a sequel. It came out, The Color of Money. The book and the movie have nothing in common. In the book, Fast Eddie Felson hooks up with Minnesota Fats, and they do a tour of hustling and scamming pool people throughout the world, and this is not it.
I know initially the idea was to get Gleason back in some capacity, but he kind of felt like he was kind of past the role, or his role in the film was very like a piece of the movie, but not actually getting to actually do anything with it. So I can respect the fact that he didn't want to return for this film feeling like, I've done it. There's nothing new to do here. Getting a chance then to kind of rework the story, because this was Tevis's last book, I believe, that he wrote before passing. Getting a chance to decide how you want to play with the movie, because Martin Scorsese was basically bet that he couldn't come in under budget and under schedule with a film, and he was given this one. Paul Newman didn't know if he could really own up to that. So getting a chance to view this in a very Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade kind of way, where we're looking at the generational gap from a different point of view. And I think that's really kind of a missing element to this film, something that, because I had seen this first. I had not seen The Hustler until we talked about The Hustler this month. I saw Color Money back in college.
Here, Fast Eddie Felson is retired because of the events happening in The Hustler. He doesn't pick up the pool. I mean, he's just a liquor distributor.
Newman's own liquor.
But if you notice, he's actually merging the personalities and the influences of what he learned from The Hustler. He's actually more like Minnesota Fats and Burt Gordon. So, he's trying to read characters and making money that way like Burt does, as well as being respectable and dress fancy and have a fancy car, and really have a respectable for the game like Minnesota Fats did. And here he finds somebody that treats it like he did in The Hustler with Tom Cruise.
And what I like about his character arc in this film is that he's almost got these different vices to avoid the addiction to returning to the table. That's where really like the liquor salesman thing. It's ironic that he would have booze as a thing to keep him away
as well
from
as like sponsoring
drug.
John Turturro's character.
Yeah, you know, and he's taking on a lot of these other roles to be as close as he can at the table without really investing himself and breaking himself again. It's a unique kind of performance where we get to see the growth of a character 25 years later, and it's very much a similar movie. I mean, it is. We have the notion of him playing a different role in the movie. Tom Cruise appears in it as a up and coming, basically the Fast Eddie of the film, and he's just a lot like Fast Eddie in that he's cocky, he's good at the game, he doesn't understand the hustle aspect of it.
As well as he doesn't really care that he's good about the game. It's just something entertaining to do while he's it's interrupting his arcade playing abilities. The funny thing is the influence of arcades, and we talk about it with Billy the Kid and the replays Vampire, is this is the evolution step, because before arcades really blossomed, and now you couldn't make money on playing arcades. You definitely can make money now playing video games. And a lot less kids play pool. Then this is kind of the transition here, because that's the first thing Fast Eddie says was, you're good at playing arcades, but can you make money on it? The answer nowadays is yes.
Probably more.
Probably more money, right? Yeah, so this is kind of why it's a little bit dated. But it's also another little footstep for arcade history, is because the creators of the video game Doom love this movie and use the title Doom because Tom Cruise refers to his pool stick as Doom.
Yeah, and it's hard not to think about it when you watch that scene, knowing that piece again, and you get this little chuckle to it, because that's what they wanted to do with the game, was when they wanted to present this unique new video game. What's in the box? Doom.
Right, and of course, in Tom Cruise, it was Vincent. He loves arcade, so it's almost like a natural step to if you're going to create this wide popular video game, of course you're going to call it Doom.
Exactly, yeah. And what I like about this movie is that Martin Scorsese is not trying to make The Hustler 2.
No.
And that's why, in a way, I didn't even know it was a sequel when I first saw it. He's making a Martin Scorsese movie featuring the same characters in a very similar way to Out of Sight and Jackie Brown, featuring Michael Keaton's character, again in a much reduced role in one of the films. But it is that kind of continuation of a world that doesn't feel tethered to any one filmmaker.
And I like to talk about Fast Eddie merging both Burt Gordon and Minnesota Fat's characters and using that to pass it on to the reluctant Vincent, who doesn't really want to do this. And I like the idea of Vincent being more juvenile. He works at a kid store, selling kid stuff, and this is Paul Newman trying to, time to grow up, time and play this game where you can make more money than working at a Toys R Us store.
Well, and I got the sense that the scene in the actual Child World, I think it's called, the scene in the actual children's store where he's selling this, item to these people does seem like a hustle. I mean, we don't ever really find out if he's really just pulling a fast one on this couple to try and make more money on it, because he gives them a discount. He's like, I can't do this, but I'll do it. We get the sense that he knows how to hustle in this world, but he may not know how to do it in this one. And that's when Newman's Fast Eddie.
That's where Marty is good, because he gives a hint that he does have a little bit, but he just needs a kick in the pants to do it.
Yeah, and maybe he needs the team, and I think that's where we get Newman, and that's where we get Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio as Cruise's character's girlfriend. She's wonderful in this movie. I didn't realize she got nominated as well for Best Supporting Actress at the Oscars, and you see why, because what Fast Eddie brings to the table for Cruise's character is very different than what she brings to it. And it's not just the sex appeal kind of girlfriend character who uses her wilds to, bring them in.
No, but she's far more mature than Vincent is.
Yeah.
And she's a criminal.
She knows that. She knows that she's, at the beginning of the film, she kind of admits, I'm with him right now because I want to be. But not because of any, emotional connection. It's more just because I want fun. He seems like fun.
Yeah. With this movie, I do like this movie, but I don't like the beginning and I don't like the end. But everything else in between is great stuff. I just don't like the beginning of it. I think if you're going to talk about Fast 80,000 using Burt Gordon and Minnesota Fats as influences and how he is, why don't you have him driving his expensive car and pulling out and fancy going up to the pool hall and hearing Vince breaking, and then you get the beginning of the story instead of just boom cut to him having dialogue with his girlfriend at the time.
Well, I think another interesting way you could tackle the opening is start it from Cruise's character. so that we can completely like see his comparison to who Fast Eddie was in The Hustler.
Yeah.
If you could mimic those two scenes off of each other with different characters and show how they're the same and how they're different, I think that would also bring something unique to the film. I do appreciate that too. Like the opening of the film, you get this weird narration, which is that Martin Scorsese narrating those first couple lines?
It sounds like
I think
yeah.
it's him.
Yeah.
And then you open with this Newman scene where he's with his girlfriend, and it's a nice character beat, but we're not beginning with an oomph, which is what we began The Hustler with.
And I think, like I said, I'm here. I'm not going to go question Martin Scorsese, but I think if you start with him with his car, which he cherishes, and it shows how he's got a lot of money, it's a good way to start the movie. Driving into the bar and stuff like that. Here, I love the Forrest Whitaker character.
I forgot he was in this.
Yes, but there's a great part in it. But he needs to come back. That character needs to come back, like in the tournament or something like that. You can't have somebody like that and just go away. And I think especially for Fast Eddie Felson's journey, I think it play him again, like in the tournament, or see him or something, or.
I think that might take away from the Newman Cruise dynamic of what their give and take is, because I agree with you. Like it's kind of like my frustration with not getting more Minnesota Fats in The Hustler, because I just assumed that he was in the movie way more than he ended up being in the movie. It ends up being a lot less about Jackie Gleason's interaction with Paul Newman's in The Hustler, and I think that's kind of like he kind of comes in just to remind our character what it's like to be on the receiving end of that hustle. And I think he's basically like, he's a player version of Burt Gordon. Like he's playing him from the moment he walks in, and Newman can't believe he's been swindled like this.
Right.
It puts him on the other side of things, and it kind of just awakens this almost self-destructive, like I'm going to get back into the game even though I don't know if I still have it.
So yeah, Fast Eddie Felson's journey, and then when he really gets swindled by Forrest Whitaker's character, gets a punch in the face, like, okay, this is not going as fluid as I thought it would be, and this is the separation where I'm going to probably try to get a little bit of revenge out of it.
Yeah, and it ends up kind of toppling that relationship, and it ends up kind of forcing him down a path, again, a very unexpected path.
Yeah.
Because what's funny about this movie is it's the only Siskel and Ebert Martin Scorsese film that's gotten 2 thumbs down. They both did not like this movie, and I agree with you. The beginning and the end are both a little bit problematic.
Yeah.
And they criticized the screenplay and the script for being very formulaic. And I will agree with them on that. Whether or not I think the film is wonderful, but the screenplay is very formulaic. He picks up this guy, he's training him, but they kind of have this tenacity. The one doesn't want to learn, the one tries to teach. There's that break up, the challenge. Like there's a lot of things to this film that are very by the numbers. But when it comes to something like Forrest Whitaker's character, he does drive him down a different narrative. So I don't think the film is 100% formulaic. I think that when he's driven out by that loss, it does mean something to him.
And like the whole, yes, we're right. And then you have that division split off. And then, like I said, I just don't like the beginning, and I don't like the ending. And a lot of people don't like the ending because it doesn't really make sense to me.
Yeah. Well, and it feels like at the end of the film that we're ending at a climax. Like we're ending when we're about to hit that moment where we're really going to get some resolution. There's enough resolution to walk away from the film at the end and go, okay, that was good. But I don't think, I agree with Siskel and Ebert. There is an ending there that we're missing.
Right. I don't think the choices of Fast Eddie Felson at the end make any a lot of sense either. Especially if you're going to trick a kid to hustle you. Wouldn't you appreciate it that, what an idiot.
Yeah.
He voluntarily left the tournament and made a couple of grand, and I'm going to win this tournament. I'm going to give you more money. Right? Wouldn't that kind of be? Would you feel a little more happy, like you dumb idiot?
Yeah.
Instead of getting mad at what he did. Yeah.
The character choices near that ending of the film remind me a lot of the character choices of Another Return decades later in Wall Street. With Wall Street, Money Never Sleeps, I think. So you get like in that, Michael Douglas's character feels like he's the same kind of guy for like 80% of the movie. And then there's this weird offshoot where I'm not sure if he's learned a lesson. I'm not sure what's caused him to change. It feels like there's a character beat where he had something happen that changed him. We don't know what that is. So
you're right. We're missing a very big piece of character beat for Fast Eddie Felson. He wants to get back in. He's very talented at what he does. He's just a little rusty, and then he gets mad at the little rusty. His eyes are deteriorating. The trick shots are not coming as well. So the frustrations seem as part of it, right? Instead of just getting mad and I'm going to go on my revenge campaign.
Yeah, because I like that scene when he does get swindled by Whitaker, and Whitaker's, on his way out, and he has that moment where he kind of breaks down to the wall. And,
and Martin does the classic.
Yeah, it's a great Scorsese shot.
I know.
In a film that is quite full of great Scorsese
and the
shots.
And down the steps is a great performance and how he framed that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we see him break, and I think those are the moments that won Newman the Oscar. Yeah. And because we do finally get a chance to see the man behind the hustle, because we're not really sure if we can even trust Paul Newman's character throughout a good bunch of the movie, because he isn't that Burt Gordon kind of character.
Yeah. And he does his old-fashioned tricks. The first thing they do is the old-fashioned trick that he did in The Hustler of tricking the bartender, which is, you see that in Hustler. So it's almost like we're doing some of the same old tricks that I did before.
Yeah.
So.
And in that way, I feel like this film is a little bit more accessible than The Hustler in terms of how it makes the hustles a little bit more accessible to the audience. It doesn't really hide behind, because in The Hustler, you kind of have to, you got to watch how things are playing out. You got to look for clues. You got to unwrap things. The film's a little bit more engaging in that way. But I think that The Color of Money makes a lot of it easier and more palatable.
I think if they apply a little more clarity of, Vincent's character showing off and kicking everybody's butt for hours at the pool hall and only winning $100, and then they scam the bartender and they make $3,000.
Yeah.
I think if you clarify, hey, you worked your butt off showing off and you only got this. We did 2 minutes of a job hustling the bar and we got this. This works.
Yes. Oh, I know, and I love that Werewolves of London sequence where we get to see Tom Cruise being Tom Cruise, because his character is so full of ego, but you can see that his performance is not like an egotistical Tom Cruise. No offense, Tom, if you're watching. But
Tom he has to be the loud character.
He's got to be the loud character, but he's not stealing the show, which is very unique, because Tom Cruise does not play a lot of secondary characters, and even here early on in his career, he was not trying to steal the spotlight at all. He was trying to enhance his performance and lift up Newman as well.
No, there's in the beginning of the movie when he's doing this whole against John Turturro shooting, and then Paul Newman just slides right in and trying to propose do you guys know what you're doing? Or Tom Cruise is doing the loud character. He's dancing, practically doing cartwheels all over and it's a great play of he's doing his loud character, but he's not dominating the scene. Paul Newman still is just sitting there offering, I'll play you for $1,000.
Yeah, and that's the strength of Paul Newman, is that he is able to sit there and you're more captivated by how he views the scene than by the scene that he's watching. It's a good dynamic and it's a good character piece. And I talked about The Hustler itself being quite a character piece, and that we spend more time on Fast Eddie as a character not doing pool than we actually spend with him playing pool.
Yeah, Fast Eddie does a lot of pool on this one.
This is almost like a course. Now I don't want to say course correction, because that makes it sound like The Hustler has a lack of pool. It's not about the pool as much in that film. In this one, it's about his kind of redemption, getting back to the things that he loved about it, and maybe learning that the hustle isn't as important as the game. Right,
and he's self-aware. He confesses, it was over for me before it really got started. Yep. And he's self-aware of his, faults. But why don't you use those to learn and not get so mad at what happens, the stuff that happens that you lose again.
Yeah. On the subject of the pool playing, I did give some high marks to the Hustlers' shooting of the pool scenes. Because
they got real
back
pool
in 1961 they had real pool players going, but then they also the camera doesn't feel the need to be like dynamically moving in The Hustler, but it captures the pool shots with a kind of excitement that you wouldn't expect almost, because it's a bunch of guys standing around a felt table. But in The Color of Money, Scorsese injects it with kind of it's a very Scorsese way of shooting pool scenes. It's very different. It's dynamic, and he's got that kind of rocking kind of camera style.
A little more full, and the costuming, I love it. Is like you sense these are legitimate hustlers with their outrageous costuming, which is not very 80s. It's almost out of date of 80s. It's almost like the 70s, right? But for the environment, the pool, is still kind of a time warp. It's still stuck in that 60s, 70s environment, even though it's in the 80s, late 80s. I do like that perception that they have of the movie.
And speaking of things that people wear. I noticed that it was really nice that in Pool Hall Junkies, the character wears a shirt that says Hustler, and in this one, Vince wears a shirt that says Vince. Maybe it's kind of like the beginning of an homage, if you will.
Yes, and well, Fascinating Felson recommends, why don't you wear that shirt when you hustle or when you're out playing pool? And it's his transition from real work and using that's his job for work, and now he's going to use that for hustling, which is actually is in transition for a next job.
Yep, exactly.
As well as being casual, right? He's being casual like Fascinating Felson was in The Hustler. He's wearing casual shirt, and he's egotistical, so he says his name and everything. So it kind of fits. It's very fitting to wear that shirt.
Yep, definitely.
Throughout his games.
I think overall, what's great about The Color of Money is exactly what it is in relation to The Hustler, but also exactly what it is in unrelation to The Hustler. They're two very different movies made by different directors with the same character. Like, you can enjoy them both for how they play off of each other. You know, they have a very Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049 feeling, where they're two different kind of movies that kind of stand on their own, but then it's when you watch them together, you kind of see that interplay between them. It's a very unique kind of a film, one that I think is actually more underrated. I'm
actually going to recommend you, before you see this movie and watch The Hustler, but actually see After Hours, Martin Scorsese's film, because he used a lot of camera play that he discovered when he made After Hours and transitions over to Color Money, to a lot of this fast zoom shot of breaking pool. He used that a lot of the after, discovered that.
That's true.
Techniques of slow cameras, go left here, pan here, or turning the wine crane. He discovered a lot of that, just having a playful time with the movie After Hours that eventually becomes a staple with Color Money, and then he uses it in Goodfellas.
Yeah. I definitely saw, because I haven't watched After Hours in a long time, but I definitely saw a lot of where Color Money was bleeding into Goodfellas. And of course, while filming this, Scorsese was reading Wise Guy, which became a very...
Yeah, you can't use Wise Guy if you say Goodfellas, right, yeah.
So definitely, I think we both recommend the movie.
I recommend it. It's a hot mess of a movie, but it shows how remarkably talented Marty Scorsese is, because a journeyman, this would have been a flop.
Yeah, I like that it's got its own style, it's got its own soul, it's got its own beat, it's got a lot of Scorsese-isms to it with the rock soundtrack. It feels like its own thing, but it makes The Hustler better, and The Hustler makes this film better.
Yeah, we talk about you can be an academically successful film. You can have the lighting, you can have the script and acting overall, but this film has style, tone, and a theme to it, and sometimes that's all you need, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we enjoyed the film, and we hope you've enjoyed our 4-episode Pool Hall Junkies event. Like I said, we got one more episode this season. We're going to keep it a surprise for you guys, because we're really excited to talk about this next film. It's one that I have not seen before, so we're going to be getting to that very soon. But
another first time
where we can pull it off the stack, take the plastic wrap out. So thank you guys for joining us. We want to know your thoughts on the movie, though. If you've seen The Color of Money, please comment down below. Did you love it? Did you absolutely hate it? I want to know why. That's kind of the fun part about having these discussions, is knowing maybe why you love or why you hate, as opposed to just the giving the 1 or 10. If you are able to, check out the Patreon page as well. We got it down in the description, patreon.com/KyleNickOnFilm. We'd love to have you aboard the team, helping us select new films. If you can't afford to do that, help share, subscribe. It keeps the conversation going, and we love hearing from you guys as well. So that's it for us, guys. I'm Kyle Goethe. You can check out all my film reviews on goatfilmreviews.com.
I'm Nick from the St. Paul Filmcast, and we'll see you next time.